Hey VC, it's Jonathan, your cheap and cheerful record collector. I hope everybody's doing well today. I'm going to do a video, shows a bunch of records, but before I do that, I wanted to make a quick comment. I belong to a lot of different groups on Facebook, record collecting groups. There's the All Things Vinyl Records, On the Turntable Right Now, the Jazz Vinyl Lovers, YouTube Vinyl Community, and through these different groups I've met people all over the world. I met people from England and Germany and Australia, whatever, all over the world. People collect records and communicated with them all sorts of ways. And I met this one guy, Vadim, who we've been talking back and forth with for a while. And he has a collection similar to mine, a little 3,000 albums. He lives, unfortunately, he lives in Ukraine. He lives in Kyiv. He's been writing virtually every day about what's been going on there. He recently sent his daughter and granddaughter out of the country. They managed to escape and got to Poland. Him and his wife are staying in Kyiv. I mean, he's a regular guy like the rest of us. He's living his normal life, taking his grandkid to the park and listening to his records and collecting, and all of a sudden his world is completely destroyed, completely turned upside down. And it's just beyond anything what's happening over there. So just an appeal, if you have an extra $15, $20, $25 in your pocket, go to the IRC, International Rescue Committee, or go to Doctors Without Borders and make a small donation. Every little bit helps. And we got to help the people over there. It's just beyond words what's happening to them. And I really feel bad. Vadim has been really talking to him all the time, and just to see how his world is completely crumbled is just beyond anything. So if you have an extra couple of bucks lying around, or you, instead of buying a record this week, make a little donation. And the ones we've been giving to is the International Rescue Committee and to Doctors Without Borders. Okay, that's that. The reason of the video here is that I'm doing a video of the 10 great guitarists who you may or may not ever have heard of. It's the first time I've actually sat down and wrote out and did research into each of the artists, because I know the music, but I didn't know much about them. So this may be a little longer video than I normally do, but grab something to drink and hang in there. All right, the first artist is a guy who was born in 1902 and died in 1933. And it's Eddie Lang. Eddie Lang, many consider him the father of jazz guitar. He grew up with and played with Joe Venuti, who was a violin player. They played a lot together. And was really one of the first ones, along with Lonnie Johnson, who I don't have any records of, who I'd like to get, was one of the first single string guitar soloists. Before him, basically the guitar players in the jazz bands would be chunka, 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 chunka in the background, just to add some background noise. And he was one of the first ones to actually start picking single strings as a soloist in front. He became very good friends with Bing Crosby. He was Bing Crosby's favorite accompanist. And when he was 30 years old, he'd been having a lot of trouble with his tonsils, and at the urging of Bing and other people, went into the hospital for a tonsillectomy and never came out. Died at 30 years old. This is a fantastic album on Yazoo Records. He does everything from a prelude from Rachmaninoff, Opus No. 3, blue guitars where he plays with Lonnie Johnson, I'll Never Be the Same, Eddie's Twister, etc., etc. Fantastic guitarist. One of the early great guitarists. And I'd heard the name, but this is the first record I was able to find by him, Eddie Lang. Fantastic. Next guitarist is a man from Argentina, but he grew up in Brazil, Oscar Elman. It's the only album I have by Oscar. So I got recently, actually, at a Goodwill here, had a whole bunch of old jazz albums like this. They were selling for $1 each. So I was really happy to grab it. Oscar Elman, born in 1909, died 1980. Started playing about 6 years old. When he was 10 years old, his mother died, and then his father committed suicide. So he was an orphan at 10 years old, ended up playing and dancing on the streets in Brazil. He finally got discovered and went overseas and met Django Reinhardt. He plays very much in the Django style. This album is his work from 38 to 44, 16 performances by the legendary jazz guitarist who appeared for the first time on long playing record. This is a great, great album. His style was similar to Django, except he finger picked. He didn't use a single pick. He just used all his fingers as a finger picker. And really fantastic guitar player. Definitely ask you if you like that kind of style guitar. Do a little digging and see if you can find anything by Oscar Aleman. Next one is another guitar player. He was born 1921, and it's a jazz guitar player, Talfarlow. Again, I'd heard the name. I'd never heard his playing before I got this record. He was born 1921, died 1998. They nicknamed him the Octopus because he has large and quick hands over the guitar. He early on played with Red Norvo and Charlie Mingus. In 1958, when he was like 35, 37 years old, he retired. Basically stopped playing professionally. But then about once a year, he would go out and do some recording. This recording is from 1977, I believe. Yeah, this was 1977. Originally just recorded in 75. Was released in 77 in Japan only. This is a 1981 repress on Inner City Records, Talfarlow. This is a trio. What it says here, Talfarlow's unorthodox approach to the guitar made him a phenomenon back in the 50s when he came to public attention of the extraordinary trio that also included Red Norvo and Charles Mingus. Began on the mandolin at age 9. Stayed with Norvo through 53. Spent 6 months with Artie Shaw. Effectively withdrew from active jazz scene, semi-retirement, and then now and then he used to play now and then up until he died in 1998. So I have a couple of Talfarlow albums now. Definitely worth checking out if you like that jazz guitar. All right, next one. This is a guy who was born here in Maine and is considered a Maine legend. And that is Lenny Brew. I just picked this up about a week ago at one of the local stores. Lenny was born in 1941, died in 1984. He incorporated jazz, country, classical, and flamenco into his guitar playing. It's a very unique finger picking style. And he played on a 7-string guitar. He even had a couple of recordings on a 9-string guitar, which I don't know anything about that stuff. Lenny was born here in Maine. His parents then moved to Canada when he was fairly young. They had a country western band, and he played in the band starting when he was about 12 years old, playing lead guitar in the band. And he came back to Maine when he was about 15, right outside here in Portland, Westbrook. He had his first recording at 15 years old, and that recordings came out later after he passed away, called Boy Genius. He left his family band in 1959 when he was like 18 years old, when they had finished playing a show with the family, the country western band, and they went backstage, and his father turned around and slapped him in the face and said, "Don't ever play those jazz improvisations again," because he was playing jazz improvs in the country western band. And he packed up his bag, Lenny packed up his bag and left home, and that was it. That was just unbelievable. He unfortunately had a lot of problems with drugs. He met and became very friends with Chet Atkins. And Chet Atkins once called him the greatest guitar player I ever saw. Unfortunately, drugs, etc., in and out of hospitals with that. And then a very weird death in 1984. He was found in a swimming pool. There were reports that his wife had strangled him. No charges were ever brought, whether it was drugs or that. No one ever really was clear on how he passed away. But if you can find any Lenny Brew albums, you'll be quite pleased and quite amazed. This is his album, When Lightning Strikes, 1982. I think it's fantastic. Just a great, great album. And a great, great guitar player. Lenny Brew. All right, the next one is a woman. I just discovered her about 2-3 years ago, and she's been gone for many years. Her name is Emily Remler. The only one I have of her is when she played this album with Larry Coryell. She was born 1957 and died 1990. Born in New Jersey and then moved to New Orleans, where she played in a whole bunch of bands in New Orleans, paying her dues, as they say. And then made her first recording about 1980. She was discovered, as it were, by Herb Ellis, who was enchanted with her as an amazing guitar player. In 1985, she won the Downbeat Guitarist of the Year award. But again, like so many others, terrible heroin addiction. And she died on tour when she was in Australia in 1980, heroin overdose. So really sad, but a great guitar player. Emily Remler. I would love to find some albums by her direct with Larry Coryell is fantastic, but I'd like to find some albums, solo albums by her. Emily Remler. All right. Now we have somebody who's actually still alive, which is really nice to see. Stefan Grossman. Don't know if you know Stefan. He was born in 1945. He founded Kicking Mule Records, was his label he founded. He took guitar lessons from Reverend Gary Davis back in the 1960s. He was part of that whole 60s New York City folk revival scene. He was in a band, which I had the album of years ago. I'd love to find it again. A band called the Even Dozen Jug Band. And in the jug band besides him was David Grisman, Steve Katz, who went on to Blood, Sweat, and Tears, John Sebastian, of course, from Love and Spoonful, and Maria Muldaur, who was then Maria D'Amato. That was a bunch of other people, but that was part of the people in the band. They only put out one record, and then they all went their own separate ways. For a while, he played with the Fugs, which I can't believe because they were terrible musicians, and he's an amazing guitar player. And he put out one of the first guitar instruction albums back in the day, in the early 60s. But a great, great guitar player. This album, I didn't look this album up, what year it's from. Recorded in Italy. It doesn't, well, it has to say somewhere. I would say this is from the mid-70s. But fantastic album. Bottleneck Serenade, just great. Stefan Grossman. Another one. This I never heard of this guy at all, and the only reason I got it is because Stefan Grossman's name is on the cover, and his name is Peter Finger. And this was he was born 1954 in Germany, and as far as I know, he's still with us. This is Bottleneck Guitar Solos, arranged for the guitar by Peter Finger, produced by Stefan Grossman. He not only plays all the songs on this album, he built the guitars that he plays on the album. This was his first album, came out early on, and this is his debut album. He basically has sort of left, he still plays music, but he's become more involved in the producing now. But this is, I just listened to this before I started making the video, and it's just, I love that bottleneck style blues guitar, and boy, he does it as good as anybody, better than most. Peter Finger. Next guy is someone you might have heard of, or you might have heard the group he was in, and that is Mike Aldridge. Born 1938, died 2012. Dobro and guitar player. He was in a band called The Seldom Scene, also in the Country Gentlemen. He toured with Lyle Lovett and Emmylou Harris, among other people. Nominated for 4 Grammy Awards. Frets magazine gave him Dobro Player of the Year, And in 2012, right before he passed away, the National Heritage Fellowship he received, which is given by the National Endowment of the Arts. This is another fantastic dobro album. I got a couple of his, actually. I saw them at Goodwill. Someone had left a couple. I bought them all. I had never heard of him at that time. I've knew Seldom Seen, but I didn't realize that he was in it. What a great guitar player. Fantastic. And unfortunately, in 2012, he died of prostate cancer. And in this day and age, there's no reason to die of prostate cancer. Unfortunately, I have prostate cancer now. I start my treatment in 2 weeks. And the recovery record is about 100%. So I'm not worried. I just got to get through it. And at this point in medical, there's no reason that someone should die of prostate cancer. So it's such a shame that he either ignored it or waited too long. But like they say, most men will die with it, not because of it. Anyway, Mike Aldridge. Next one is another guy who I had never heard of him. It was a Goodwill buy, blind buy. I liked the cover of it. It looked interesting to me. The guy's name is Dick Rasmini. And this is Adventures for 12-string, 6-string, and banjo. He was born 1936, died 1995. For a while, he was considered the best 12-string guitar player playing at the moment. This album predates John Fahey and Leo Kottke with their that style of guitar playing. They were very much influenced by this album. They both admit being influenced a lot by Dick Rasmini. He did a lot of things. He was actually a photographer, I found out, for Tiffany Company. And he was the head photographer for their jewelry department. He did that for a while. He played a lot of music. And then he taught recording engineering at USC in California and was very involved with in the motion picture industry with recording engineering, etc. He consulted to JBL speakers and actually co-designed some of the speakers with JBL stereo equipment. Dick Rasmini, really great album. This is from 64, I think it is. Yeah, 64. And as it says, he plays the 12-string, 6-string, and banjo on this album. Fantastic stuff. Dick Rasmini. And then finally, number 10, we'll come right up to current day. And the current day guitar whiz and a blues guitar player is Kingfish. He was born in 1999, so he's still a baby. I think he's 23 years old now. He's already gotten 2 Grammy nominations. This is his first album. It's so fan. His real name is Kriston Ingram. But boy, what a guitar player. And he plays lots of styles on this album. He does a lot of country blues. He does some Chicago type blues. Does some real electric blues. Great singer and a great, great album. Kingfish. And this is on Alligator Records, the yellow Alligator label. And when I'm done with this video, I think I'm going to pop this one back on and listen to it again, because I only listened to it 5 or 6 times. I think I need another couple of dozen listens. Fantastic, Kingfish. So those are 10 guitar players that maybe you never heard of, or maybe you did. Anybody I should know that I don't know, or I haven't listed there? Maybe someone a little more obscure that you are into, that maybe you can turn me on to. I'd appreciate it. And once again, like I said, if you do have a couple extra bucks lying around and you want to help out, please go to the IRC, International Rescue Committee, or go to Doctors Without Borders and make a donation to help the people of Ukraine who are being decimated by the fascist Putin and his gang. Okay, hopefully that situation will get itself together fairly soon, and the people will stop their suffering. They can continue on with their lives. And remember, till next time, we need it now more than ever. Peace.